welcome to this edition of Empowered 305. With us here today is Omi Llaneras, our City of Miami's victims advocate, witness coordinator, and also a Miami police chaplain. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me in your beautiful studio. I can't wait for us to just chat.
I have been wanting for you to engage with our community via our podcast for some time. And I want to thank you because I know you're a very busy woman. Why did you want to become a victims advocate, witness coordinator? Pretty long title, but I want the public to know what your 9-to-5 job is in the city besides your volunteer work.
Yes, absolutely. So victims advocate, witness coordinator is such a fundamental part of the department because we're out in the community helping those victims of violent crimes, such as homicide victims, domestic violence, human trafficking victims, and so much more that we can enter within their crisis moment to provide resources such as helping them with medical bills, funeral arrangements for the next of kin. So there's so many variety that we can help out with. Counseling. Mental health is so important to be able to have them where they're at, to be able to move forward with their life, and having someone holding your hand throughout that time is fundamental.
Rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
So what does a day look like for Omi? I know you're up bright and early and you're walking into the Miami Police Department, but your job is not really 9 to 5. What happens in the middle of the night sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes we're on call. And if that phone rings at 2 a.m., we have to go exactly whether to that scene or to the station to go be with that family or that victim. My day starts very early. At 4 a.m., I get all my kids' stuff ready so the hubby can take them to school. And I start my day. I print out all my reports, call those victims, do a lot of follow-ups. Follow-ups are key to making sure that our victims are getting taken care of.
That's so important for people to actually know that these resources are available to them, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, if someone calls and we have to go do hospital visits, we're there. At a drops of dime, we're right there visiting them. But there's so many resources, so many community partners that we partner up specifically for domestic violence, where we can resource them to those individuals that have knowledge over domestic violence, that they can carry on, whatever issue they're going through, but we're still following up with them.
In that very chair sat Catherine Fernandez-Rundle, also known as KFR. I call her KFR.
She's beautiful. And I love all her suits.
She's big about victims advocate. Yeah. Human Trafficking Month is January.
Yes, ma'am.
And we take it upon ourselves to get that information out about how not to fall prey to human trafficking, specifically in South Florida. And she's going to be joining us in another podcast.
That's awesome.
In months to come, to be able to speak a little more about that. I know that she's huge about that. And it's so important. And domestic violence, I know and that's really year round. I know October is the symbolic month for it, but it's a year-round situation. And I know you deal with that almost on a daily with the victims.
Yes, ma'am. On a daily basis, we're dealing with domestic violence, and that can happen at any age, between a family dispute, a boyfriend and girlfriend, visitors, tourists, and, we have to have our A game with them and making sure that they're being taken care of. But most importantly, that active listening to them is key, because sometimes all they want us to do is just listen because nobody else is believing what's going on, but having that person next to you, like, I believe what you're going through. I believe all that stuff that you're feeling is true. Allow me to help you find those resources so that together we can get better.
What is one of your biggest challenges as a victims advocate? Walk me through something that you've encountered that perhaps people don't really know. A lot of people really don't know the victims advocate witness coordinators exist. And they're housed inside each police department, correct?
Correct, yes.
And I know the state attorney's office has some as well.
Absolutely.
What has been one of your biggest challenges, if you can share that with us?
Biggest challenges as a victim advocate is being able to have more resources. We do have resources, but having more resources, maybe even funding to fund the program itself and the unit, that we may be able to extend more, have more advocates on board with us to be able to reach out more community members as well. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, is to have more resources that we can have in the community and just partner up. I think partnerships within different agencies and local community members, I think that would be something that we should encounter a little bit more. I think resources is really it.
And that's key, because hopefully with this podcast, we have other people that are watching us that may want to join in and help,
Absolutely.
right? That's always welcomed.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's a awesome job. It's something that I love and adore. It has this moments where it's like, I need 5 minutes. I just heard something.
Absolutely.
But to be able to have others join us, I've always said, if we have partnerships and those partnerships flourish and we have more people on board and support what we do, I think the sky's the limit with that.
How long have you been a victims advocate coordinator?
I was just hired in April of 2024.
But you were there under a grant.
I was
before.
there under a grant with VOCA as temporarily, and then I had the opportunity to be able to interview to become a city employee now, which makes me permanent. Yes, I'm super excited. But prior to even coming under this role, I was a community advocate. In the Miami-Dade County, if you want to say it, I was a food programs director, where I was able to oversee a food program that was able to feed over 400 students right here in Miami-Dade County and the city, Title I schools.
Awesome.
We will be able to give them weekend meals for those kids. Maybe even some of them were part of the victims that we have seen. They were the little ones. And also see a dental unit that we provided free access to dental health for cancer patients. So having those community partners and knowing where to send them is phenomenal.
Great foundation.
Absolutely. And that's where my love for advocacy for the community started. My prior job, but it was a church job. I was a children's ministry director. But when you encounter families that are in need, you and I and all of us, we can go to Publix and buy snacks and milk. Some of these people cannot, but to be able to provide that and be like, hey, I know somewhere, I know a nonprofit that you can go to for free, that you can go on a beautiful bus, a beautiful warehouse that you can take home for free, probably $200 worth of groceries.
That's important. And there's a lot of programs out there.
Absolutely.
So in your time that you've been with the city, is there one specific case that has hit you hard or that has impacted you?
Yeah. Recently I had one. I can't say what it was, but when I had to translate to a lady, because she only spoke Spanish and I had to speak to the other person in English, I had to say word by word what happened to her. And that was the first time that I can say I stepped into the shoes of that victim. And I had to hold myself not to cry and just say, you're at work. You need to translate perfectly what she's saying. It's a victim statement. It's very important to hear that victim, but that really impacted me. And that day, I'm a police chaplain, and we always say, where does a chaplain go when you need another chaplain? And I had to reach out to one of my chaplains.
That's now on the flip side of things, right? Yeah. I'm a police officer, so have I not seen face first?
Yeah.
Been on call for, practically the vast majority of my career, right? Those midnight wake-up calls, maybe just going to sleep and boom, you get that call. And then some may hit you a little harder. And the chaplaincy detail is a huge part of our organization.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about your role as a police chaplain.
So my role as a police chaplain, I'm with the City of Miami Police Department as one of their chaplains. I'm also a multi-agency police chaplain and a peer support team member chaplain. It's called the Miami-Dade Peer Support Team, where we have 3 chaplains under there. So I think every agency having a police chaplaincy detail or unit is phenomenal. I'm a huge advocate for it because in those moments, that person can be yelling and they need someone to pray. Maybe at that moment I cannot because I need to make sure they're doing fine, but I know exactly who I can call. to come and support that individual or that family during their crisis moment, where I'm trained to do it. I'm a sworn-in police chaplain, but in that moment I cannot. I can reach out to a fellow chaplain.
So talk to me a little about how the chaplaincy detail
Absolutely.
works.
Yeah.
And a lot of people probably don't know that we have different denominations.
Yep.
Kind of give me a hint so that people know of what it entails and what.
Absolutely. So chaplains are basically, for the police department, we're sworn trained police chaplains, where we're law enforcement trained, meaning that if a officer gets involved in a shooting or something's wrong with them at home, or even a civilian worker, that we can automatically go to them, just like a victim advocate, make sure they're doing well, and see what their needs are in that critical moment with them. We can get called out, and that's when the religion, quote unquote, part comes in. We have from Baptist, non-denomination, Catholic, we have rabbis, we have, I know one particular county has Muslims, so we have someone specifically for that community member or that officer or the civilian. But we all know in that time of need, that doesn't even matter at that moment. We just need to make sure that person's doing good. I need to make sure I'm supporting you. So we're all trained under law enforcement. I have a mixed training with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. I was able to train with them as well, and that was phenomenal. Our first responders need that neutral person where everything that we talk about is confidential. We're not going to go back to chain of command and say, hey, you said this, this, and that. As long as they're not going to hurt themselves or other, anything they tell us is confidential. But again, in the police world, they'll smell if you're fake. They'll smell if you're out talking. So as long as you're nourishing that friendship, they're going to come up to you. They're going to text you out of nowhere. Hey, I'm going through this. Can you pray for me? And that's the part where I believe God gives us those ordained moments to, like, all right, I want to pray for you, and maybe invite them to church. But that's not our first step that we do. Our first step is, how can I help you as a law enforcement officer? What are your needs? And then I can resource you out.
I think that's key. We used to have back in the day the prayer box.
Oh, I love that.
We used to have the prayer box where we would insert in there, and it would be open on a daily. And then our chaplains, I'm proud to say that our chaplaincy detail has expanded.
It's 13 of us.
Yes, I remember when we were just like maybe 7. And that's respecting everyone's faith.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the things that Pastor Raz Vasquez, who is our oldest chaplain, who I care for and love very deeply. He's a great man of faith, and he's been there for us. I've been with the city 22 years. And as far as my entire career, it's always been Raz. Right? I bug him. I say, you don't get old. And behind Raz came a lot more chaplains, and we're so very thankful to Raz and to you. I want to thank you for joining us here today, for everything you do, because not just a victims advocate witness coordinator, that is your day-to-day job, but because you do so much for us within the police department, and you branched out and you obviously help multi-jurisdictional. I think that's key. And thank you for representing us in such a beautiful and heartfelt manner.
It's an honor. I'm humbled to do what I get to do every day. And to me, it's not a job. It's a passion and a calling that I've been called to do, and serve the city of Miami the best way that I can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. And I would love to bring you back maybe a year on after your job, so you can, come and continue. Hopefully the chaplaincy program continues to grow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's about giving back.
God willing.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on today's Empower 305. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.